Hi Stampers, it's Lisa. I'm here with today's Facebook Live. I'm also over on YouTube. I keep forgetting that part. I've been doing Facebook Live for a couple of years now, and so we recently added YouTube in January. So by 6 months, you'd think I remember now, but anyway, thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Lisa. I'm with Queen Bee Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And so, of course, everything I use is going to be Stampin' Up! Related and available for purchase in my store. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you know when I go live, because I've actually added a second day. We're going to be going live, as always, on Monday at 2:30, but I'm going to try to add Thursdays at 2:30 as well and see how that goes. So make sure that you have those notifications on and you're all subscribed so you don't miss out on anything. And so this week we're playing around with the Waves of Inspiration stamp set. This was an early release out of our annual catalog. It became available before our catalog went live, even though it's meant to be in our 2022-2023 annual catalog. And it comes with, of course, with a set of dies. And so we're going to be playing with both. I've actually got two cards because I think the one is going to be so quick that we're going to need more stuff to do. So this is the first one we're making. It's an Emboss Resist. This is heat embossed in white, and then I went over it with our blending brushes. And then for something different, I did the inside using the ocean front to show how that can coordinate with. Those kind of stamps were one of those things that took me a little while to get the hang of how they work. But now that I know how they work, they're actually really cool. So, oh yes, thank you, Janet. So again, let's get started. I'm going to put you down on my desk so you can see all of what we're doing. I want to make sure that I highlight down here so that you can see up close what we're going to be working on. This is our card, as I said. The wave actually comes in one big large stamp, and this is actually our largest block. This is an F. I don't use it very often, but when you need it, you really need it. So we're stamping with this, and then we're using white embossing powder. You may have noticed on the top of all my embossing containers, I put a little punch or die cut of something in the color that this is, so I know that this is white embossing powder. As I get older, my eyes don't work so good, and so I needed to have something a little more obvious than their teeny tiny print. And we use that with Versamark, which was on my desk. Here we go. So Versamark ink is what we call a watermark stamp pad. And what it does is when you stamp on the same color that it's supposed to be, it does a watermark effect. Let's see if I have some over here. So if I was to stamp on, this is a new color, Orchid Oasis. Now, normally I would stamp on this in Orchid Oasis ink, but let's say, for instance, I don't have that. I can come in with the Versamark ink and ink that up. You know, actually, let's go this way, because I find it hard to line up the edge unless I can see it on these big things. So I'm going to stamp this in reverse. I'm going to hold it over the stamp and then just rub with my fingers so that I know I'm catching that edge. And there we go. So that's a watermark effect. Looks like it's stamped in the Orchid Oasis ink. But we're going to actually be using it for heat embossing. Now you'd let this dry for an extra bit because it does stay wet because it's waiting for that embossing powder. But you can heat it with the heat tool as is, or you can let it sit for a while. I'm going to toss it off to the side and let that sit. I'm going to bring in a piece of binder paper or copy paper. This is folded in half, so it made that little funnel down the middle, this little valley. And I use that to catch all of my excess powder so I can pour it back in the container. So let's ink this up. And then again, let's set our white paper down on it. Give it a little rub. This works really great for background stamps as well. Oh yes, don't forget to put in Prize Patrol and make sure you've given StreamYard permission to use your name. I see somebody up there on Facebook that I just see user. So I apologize. I have no way to control that. It's supposedly a privacy issue for your benefit that you have to give StreamYard permission to see your name. Okay, so I'm just dumping the embossing powder on here and I'm being really generous. And I'm doing white on white and we're going to blend on it. So I'm not real concerned about excess powder hanging out somewhere it shouldn't, but if you were, we have an embossing buddy, and this is just a powder you would rub all over it. It's an anti-static pouch, and it will cut down on any static so you don't get little flyaway pieces where you don't want them. I wasn't worried about that too much today, but those of you who have been looking for one and haven't been able to find it, you'll be glad to know it's going to be in our new catalog, which is coming out in less than a month. We just got our annual catalog the beginning of this month. We're already, or last month, but we're already getting our holiday catalog. So we're going to start getting Christmas stamp sets and Halloween and all those good things, and another paper share as well. So that's coming up really quickly. That catalog will go live on July 1st. So you can see the embossing powder on there. Let's pretend I heated it. So this one's already been heat embossed. So it's a raised effect. So I don't know if you can see it very well. Sometimes when the light hits it, you can, but it's just shiny. You would hold it under the heat tool until it gets really shiny like that. And then once it's shiny all over, you know it's fully melted. And then we're ready to start blending with it. And for the blending, we have in the past used sponge daubers. We've done the little sponge wedges. That's what sponge daubers are, but they give a different look. Today we're going with a look for more of a blended look. So I'm going to use our new blending brushes. I have a tendency to hold them up close and sometimes even put my finger on the top up here, whatever's comfortable for you, but you want to have some good control over it. I'm going to bring in some blues. And so I have Pool Party and Coastal Cabana. That's going to be my watercolors. That's what color I want my wave to be. And then I'm going to have my Sunset in Mango Melody and Daffodil Delight. Then we're going to have our Night Sky in Orchid Oasis, Starry Sky, and Night of Navy. So lots of colors getting blended today. And I have my blending brushes in blues and yellows. And I use the blue for everything. This still has some leftover of the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and rub that on there. But once this starts running a little bit lighter, then I can go back to my balmy blue. See, yeah, now you can't see it. So I'm going to start out with Pool Party, and I'm going to go over that wave. So I'm just going to take my blending brush, and I'm going to swirl it around. I'm giving it some pressure, and I'm picking up ink. And don't forget to let go around the outside edge. We have a tendency to use our ink pads mostly in the middle, and so that's what's going to run out of ink first. Oh, good. Somebody's already ordered this bundle. Fun. Now you'll have something to do with it. I will have stuff on it all week. Okay, so this is Pool Party. And it's actually a little dark, but it's good. So I'm just going over my wave. And then I'm going to take some Coastal Cabana, And I'm going to throw some of that in there. I like it especially on the edges. Okay, so now I'm ready to do the sun in the middle. So I'm going to switch to my other brush. And I've got my Daffodil Delight and Mango Melody. Now I'm going to just do this freestyle, but if you wanted to, well, here, I'll show you. I have our mask. Stampin' Up! Now has masking paper. It's in our new annual catalog. I had it handy. I guess I set it aside. But basically, I used one of our circle die cuts, and I die cut it out. And then I can just set it down here, and it's going to stick. Now, I'll be honest, the first time I did it, it was too sticky. And when I tried to pull it off, it actually ripped the paper. So the second time I used it, I peeled off the backing, and I stuck it to my dress, and then stuck it to the pad. It sounds weird, but it worked. It didn't stick that time. So here I'm just putting a little bit of our Daffodil Delight. Let's come in with a little of the orange. Not too much. So let's go back and do some more yellow. And so that's giving us our sunset. And if I wanted to turn this a little more blue, I can go over that. So just until you're happy with the look. Don't think that once you've applied your color, you can't go back and add a little more, because you can. But I basically wanted this to look like this. It was setting, and it's right in the middle of the ocean. And you'll notice that my white embossing powder is resisting any ink because it's shiny on top. It doesn't stick. And sometimes I'll even go back with a tissue or something and rub off any excess. But it works really well. So now as I'm changing colors, I'm going to come in here with the Orchid Oasis. This is a little bit of a purplish. And I'm doing it on my paper first because I want to make sure that I don't have this solid dot. You can see when I first set it down, we're getting kind of a marking. I don't want that marking. I want this to be very smooth. I just wanted a tinge of purple as it blends up into the sky. And then I'm going to hit it with some Starry Sky. Again, see, we would not want that on our paper. Always start kind of off to the side and then work your way in. I'm even still getting a little too much, I think, marking. But let's just say it looks like rain coming down, right? Well, we'll go with it. Add a little more purple in here. And then I think on the very edge, I'm going to put some Night of Navy. And this is something that takes a lot of practice. Don't think that you can pull these out, you know, the first time ever and do really well with them. It took me a long time to get the hang of doing this, and I'm still not really happy with it. I mean, it's better than using sponge daubers or something, but I think I still need more practice. So don't be hard on yourself and know that it's not going to be perfect. It's a matter of playing with it and seeing how much pressure and how much ink is going to get you the result that you want. So you'll notice this one I did with the mask, and it's got a little more defined sun back there. And see what I mean about the angle of the stuff coming down? It's a little heavy on the ink. But I'm going to throw some stuff in there to make it look like stars. So this is the one I did freestyle. This was just I put the ink down and then went over it. So it turns out different every time as well. You know, this one I think is a little darker. This is maybe earlier in the day. But now that I have it all blended, let's see. I'm going to come back here. I have a white gel pen, and I'm just going to put marks kind of all over to look like stars. And I'm just going straight up and down and just dotting. And I don't know that this is the perfect way, but it gives me the effect I look, and it's easy. So I love easy. Okay. Now that I have that, we needed a little rhinestones. So I'm going to bring in some basic rhinestone jewels and my take your pick tool. Everybody needs one of these. They are super useful. I'm going to use the kind of putty end, and I'm just going to place a few stars in the sky. And see how easily this picks it up? It's just a little bit of a slide and then dump, slide and then drop. Okay, so then we have our Starry Sky base. I'm butting it up here, making sure I have my edge, and then working my thumbs back so that I can try to make this as even on the edge as possible. And then I'm ready to stick this on top. So see, super easy. Just some practice, it's all it takes. Yeah, you can tell I'm using some leftover cardstock. I had made a kind of a goof. I got a bit of a halo there, so I flipped it over and I'm using the other side. We don't want to waste our materials, right? We added 7 new members to our team last month. That was a really good deal. And Celebration is happening next month, so there's a new deal. Stampin' Up's always got something up their sleeve. Okay, so now that I have the outside done, we're ready for the inside. So this is where I said I'm going to bring in my companion stamp set. And I'm going to bring in the ocean front. And they have these kind of generic, I don't know what you want to call them, just kind of watercolor washes. And they work great for just laying down some color. And so I did this one over here in a Sahara sand to look like sand, right? And then I did this one over here as water. So I did this one in a blues, and I think I'm going to have it overlap a little. So let's see what size I need. I need a bigger one. And I've got several others that I made that I'm going to be showing you as well after we get done with these. And I have the one I'm going to be doing as my card on Thursday. So hang out and make sure you get to see everything. I have lots to share. Okay, so that's just making it look like a little bit of sand. Let's do some ocean water. Now, if you want this to blend a little more, you can do this on shimmery white cardstock and then use your aqua painter over the top and just give it a little blend. I don't know that it'll work real well on the white. But on the shimmery white, this will pick up some color and allow you to spread it around. The shimmery white has more of a slippery surface, I guess I want to say, which allows the ink to sit on top for longer before it blends in, whereas our Whisper White soaks up the color right away. So you can see a little bit how that would blend it. Like I said, not working real well on this, but if you had shimmery white, it would. We can even take, to fill in that little hole that was bothering me, we can take this and just pick up some directly off our pad. Go ahead and fill that in. Anyway, I'm going to stop playing with it, but you get the idea. You can fill in those little things if they bother you. They bother me, but I'm weird. Okay, back to our card. So here we have our inside. And again, I wanted to blend some sky up there. So let's see. See how much smoother that is when I don't have quite as much ink on there? I'm not getting those streaks that I was getting before. Okay, and then I wanted our pelican over here on the side, but the pelican is in one stamp. Now I could stamp this in black and then color it in. There's not an issue with that. Or you can take our Stampin' Write markers. Now that we have the blends, I don't color with these as much anymore, but I can't do this with our blends. What I'm going to do is just use this brush end, and I'm going to brush on the color. I want this post, I guess, to be in soft suede. So I'm just putting soft suede on my posts. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the pelican itself in a gray. Now I don't want to go straight down and, mash my tip, but coming from the side, I'm able to apply the ink precisely where I want it to go. This works great for like if you had a flower and you want the stem and the flower to be different. And then you want to huff on it. I know, which sounds really weird, but you're going to breathe on it. You know how kids do when they put their breath on a window to make they call it smoke, but the steam, the moisture from your breath is going to re-wet the ink and give you your separate gray and brown for your posts. And then I'm going to go ahead and come in with some blends and color in. It's because I still want the kind of two-tone that our posts are giving us here. I'm coming in with crumb cake instead of soft suede. We'll accent with a little bit of the dark around the edges where the artist has already had her dark. And then I'm going to use the light in the middle. And I'm making little swirls to try to blend it. And the pelican's beak. I'll make that a daffodil delight. Light daffodil delight. And then I've got the light smoky slate to do his body. And then I'm going to come in with the color lifter just to smooth out the middle and bring a little of the gray up into his head. Okay, now last time on my sample card here, I also did them on the outside and I die cut it. That's one of the dies that comes with it. And then I heat emboss the sentiment in here, but I think it gets a little lost because it's in white. So this time I'm going to stamp it in Starry Sky. Ooh, which is very juicy. You can see I've got kind of a halo going on up there and it's a little bubbly. I don't know if you can tell. One of the ways I would fix that is to rub it with the back of a spoon. So what I'm doing is just pushing the ink back down into the pad so that it's not so much on the surface. Got my Stampin' Scrub over there. I try to get as much ink off as I can on my scrap paper before taking it over to the Stampin' Scrub so that that's not saturated with ink. Yes, you can stamp the pelican facing the other way. That's done with the Stamparatus. They call it mirror stamping. And I can show you how to do that. Okay, so this time I didn't get the halo. It's not as bubbly. And there we go. There's our sentiment. So that's without the pelican, and this is with the pelican. You have me thinking. I don't know. The way it's done with the Stamparatus is the silicone matte. And I was trying to think where mine is. But I will make a separate video, and I will show you how to do the mirror stamping. Okay, so this is a second one I did with some blending. So I thought I would show you this one. And this used more dies. The die set has 2 sets of waves. And at first I thought they were the same, but they're actually a little bit different. You can see this one's squared off on the edge. This one's got a little more of a rounded. They you know, this got 3 points. This only has 2. So when they lay one on top of the other, and this is die cut out of some paper that was part of it, the suite, I guess, it was the paper that was released with this bundle. And I'm not sure it's available anymore. It was kind of a, what do they call it, a paint pour. Oh, good. I'm so glad you're trying it, Janice. That's great. But these were designed after a paint pour. This time I put adhesive sheet on the back. I found that very useful, so that all you have to do is peel it off, and then they're sticky. Of course, if I can peel it with my fingernails. Or maybe it doesn't. Gosh, I can't even tell. These were die cut a while ago, and I thought I put adhesive sheet. Maybe I didn't. Oh, well. I recommend adhesive sheet. I thought that's the ones I grabbed. These must be different. So you will see when you go to adhere these, they're going to require a little more adhesive, especially since we're going to put it onto some glimmer paper. So what I'm going to do is put little glue dots in the biggest spots on here. And I'll do that with the Take Your Pick tool. Oh, time to put some things away. Okay. So this time I'm going to use the pointy end. And I'm just going to, like I said, find the bigger spots. And then I'm using the tip to just kind of turn it in a little. You can also kind of lay it down and then bend it over itself, and so it's bent in half. That's another way to get it on little tiny areas. Zig makes a ballpoint ink pen of glue that might work. I prefer the glue dots because they're thicker and there's more grab to them. Okay, so there's one. We need another one. And I'm just trying to put it on strategic points. So that it's good and adhered. And I can always go back in later and add a little more, but you get the idea. And then I'm just lining one on top of the other. And so here I know where it's going to stick from one paper to the other. Okay. So once I have it adhered and I'm pretty happy with it, then I'm going to come in with my paper snips and just trim this excess off. Yeah, I'm trying to show you guys more tips and tricks as I make my cards. I don't make a lot of really simple cards because I don't understand why people need instruction to make them. But maybe that's just me. I've been crafting for too long. And there's lots of people out there that show you the really simple stuff. But I like to give you tips that'll help you level it up to the next level, but without being complicated. You know, I don't want you spending an hour and a half making one card. That's not smart, in my opinion. So I'm just going in with my paper snips and just snipping out some of this excess. And I always tell you I spin the paper instead of my scissors because my scissors are comfortable in my hand this way. And that's how I get the best control over them. And so I just bend the paper to match. So see, this is coming out much darker with this different paper. So again, it's one of those things where it can be very different. I mean, you can make the same card over and over again and they're still going to look unique, which I really like. These clouds are die cuts, and there's just the cloud by itself. You can just cut that out in white. You can leave the paper in the die, and then use your blending brushes or a sponge dauber, and you can daub into it with a little bit of smoky slate, and you could give it just a little bit of color by inking through the holes. That would be something. And they also have a separate die, and this is the one that gives us what I did the silver in. So there's a couple different ways to do the clouds. For this one, we're using the silver lining. So I'm just going to pop those on with dimensionals. And now we need our backdrop. So we'll come back in with some basic white paper. And this is, you know, our standard size, 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm going to pick up my mask again. This time I'm going to put the sun over here. And I'm going to come in with my sun colors. So a little bit of Mango Melody and then some Daffodil Delight. So I can peel the mask off and it's going to reveal white, which on a blue sky, you know, could be the moon. Oh. You can see how it's stuck really well. Okay, so that's what I mean about I need to not press so hard on the mask. Pulled my paper a little, but actually that's going to play into my technique here, because what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take my Wink of Stella and then I'm just going to rub this all over. And you'll see why in a little bit. Because I wanted it to be glimmery, and it's not as much as I wanted it to be. It doesn't show up like I thought it would when I first started playing with it. But when I went over it with the yellow, I actually got a really good effect. If it'll focus. See how, so it kind of looks like it's got some texture to it, which I thought was really cool. Yes, you're supposed to use your DSP. Although I have lots left over. Trust me, Janet knows. I brought a bunch of it to retreat. And sometimes that leftover stuff comes in handy. Okay, so back to our sky. I need my blue. So I'm starting out with Orchid Opulence again. Making sure I've only got a little bit. And then we can move out to the starry sky. See, the blending even is not picking up as much ink since we pushed it down with the back of our spoon. So that was good for the blending as well. Okay. So now that I think my Wink of Stella over here is dry, I'm ready to come back in with my yellows and give the sun a little more yellow. So see how that Wink of Stella just gives it some, I don't know, uneven texture? I don't know what I'd even call it. I've already started planning for next year's retreat, and I'm looking for kind of a head count. So if you plan on coming next year, make sure that you RSVP in the Facebook group. And I also even have it on my registration if you're ready to put down your deposit to secure your spot. Okay, so here is my die cut of my wave. And so it looks like it goes down a little lower. Okay, so now I'm ready to adhere that. And then our clouds. And this time I'm going to use a Night of Navy as our card base. And that's one of the colors from the Designer Series paper. So how pretty is that, huh? Yeah, we rented a cabin on Airbnb in Rockland, Idaho. And it was really cool because we were out in like the middle of nowhere. But the house had fiber internet, so nobody lost their cell phones or laptops or any of that. Everything still all worked. So that was really cool. So there's card number 2. And again, there's a darker version and a lighter version. Kind of the same look, kind of not. Just like these two we did. Again, kind of the same look, kind of not. Also, while I was playing around, I made this one, and I wasn't really happy with it. That's why this wasn't one of the ones I demoed. I don't know. Maybe I should have stamped on this something. I don't know. The outside looks too blank. But in here, I wanted to show you one of the things I did is one of the backgrounds that I did this on didn't have the heat embossing, so I guess it was one of these. But anyway, I didn't like how it came out. And so I used my wave die cut to die cut out after I had done my blending. And that gave me this die cut, which I think came out really cool. I think if I had tried to come in and blend this with the blending brushes after it was die cut, it wouldn't have worked because it would have, tried to tear the fine little pieces. But because my blending was done before I die cut it, it came out really good, I think. And then I just made a little L. I don't know if you can see, but there's a separate piece of cardstock I just used to cover up the ends. Another thing I could have done, I think, was put it in between the outside frame and the top frame. So I could have buried the ends under there. It would have worked as well, too. This time I used I don't know if you can barely tell, but I used the negative of where I punched out my clouds or die cut out my clouds. And I used it as a template, and I sponged in some smoky slate for the clouds and then laid this over it. So it's just got a little bit of a halo of the smoky slate. I've blended a little bit of blue in the background. I have multiple colors in my wave. And how I did that was I came in with my stamp. I inked it all up in my pool party because that's the lightest of my colors. And then I used the sponge daubers, and I came in and started working my way to darker. So I started with Coastal Cabana, gave it a few little daubs, and then I came in with Orchid Opulence, a few more little daubs kind of randomly around, and then finally the Starry Sky. And then when I take a piece of white and I stamp onto it, I'm going to have my multiple colors of blue. Yeah, shells may look good on that. That's a good idea, Janet. So there's our multiple colors of the blue. Now, I'm not really happy with how the blues are quite so round because of my sponge dauber. One of the ways you can get around that is by using one of these instead. Then it wouldn't be quite so, I don't know, round. Because they just look very round to me. Maybe if we moved it a little. Because these ones don't look as round to me. But anyway, you get the idea. That's how I did it. And then I did two more. I did this one. So this is a shaker card. I happen to have some gold glitter left over from when we used to do tumblers with the glitter and epoxy. What a mess. So this, again, I used the wave back there, and I did the multiple colors, and then I cut out this frame with two of the rectangle dies. I skipped one in the middle, so this is two different sizes, one apart. I didn't use the middle one, so I got a wider frame. And then I used the foam strips and went all the way around to hold in the glitter. So I have the frame, I have this plastic is actually part of what our photopolymer stamps come on. And then I had it this way. I put my frame around it. Then I put my glitter in it. And then I put my stamped wave on top of it to get this. And then I glued the whole thing onto the card front. So that's our shaker card. And then I did this one. And I really liked how this one came out. So this is the one I'm going to do on Thursday on our Facebook Live. We're going to make this porthole card with another wave. So what do you think? Make sure that you follow my blog. It's going to have all of the directions and some measurements and things for these cards. And I hope you give it a try. As I said, these things can be purchased in my online store. They are part of the new annual catalog. Who's ready for Prize Patrol? I'm going to remember that this time. Make sure you have typed in hashtag Prize Patrol. It looks like so far we have 8 entries. And we can give the wheel a spin and see who is going to earn today's card. So add this one. Susan's our winner again. Congratulations. She's had some good luck lately. Don't forget, as part of claiming your prize, you want to go to the claim form and fill in your address so that I can send that card off in the mail to you. And in the meantime, make sure that you follow me over on Facebook and are all subscribed to my YouTube channel. And I will see you Thursday at 2:30 right here on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks for joining me. Bye.